Not on. Oh, I don't know. I think I'm having some issues with my internet. But peace, peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abbott, aka Mr. Just the Facts. Mr. Just the Facts. Shout out to our sister BTP Cynthia for that powerful, powerful intro. Class is now in session. I love how that ends. Peace to all of the sons and the daughters of Freedmen. Make sure y'all hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I don't understand why you're not. I don't. But hit the subscribe button. Then hit the little bell icon next to it so that you can become a part of the notification nation and get notified every time Be the Power goes live. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat so far. Peace, Sister Sin. Peace, Sister Shanna. Peace, Kep. Um, okay, I see you, Cash. Dr. Logic Supreme is in the building. Brother Vince Jefferson, Mr. Atlas, Ali Dawul L. Peace to the family. So we are having a conversation tonight with our fellow reparationists. Lions Den, aka Trey X, peace. Gerard Ibn Lamont, peace. And you know, there this reparations movement has a lot of different nuances to it. When one studies, like we have, right? So I keep this book on my desk. I got a couple of them. Oops, that tissue. I got a couple of them. I keep one in my room. They just all over. I got it on Kindle and I have it on Audible. I go over the chapters. I just want to make sure that what we're saying and the things that that we conclude is in line with what the scholarship says on the topic. For those of you familiar with me in the Moorish movement, there were a lot of people, a lot of Moorish groups that made a whole bunch of claims, even in the MST of A. And a lot of that stuff was bogus. So when I came along and my brothers came along who are on Be the Power right now, then we start to, use the scholastic methodology to challenge a lot of those claims. And eventually, a lot of those claims were put to rest. A lot of those claims were put to rest. And we were able to produce our own scholarship, which caught the eyes of other scholars in, eventually, I should say, our works became cited in the works of other scholars. So, we take pride in that type of stuff. So we say that to say that we feel that the scholarship is important because it helps us with the research. When you have good scholarship and understand good scholastic methodology, you can do really good research. And when you do really good research, you come up with really good conclusions. And that's what we pride ourselves on here at Be the Power. Hence, people using the term reparationist, they heard that here first on Be the Power. People using the term freedmen, they heard that here first on Be the Power. We're not making no claims to any of this stuff because we're not running a cult over here. Our issue comes in when we have deviations, or what we view as deviations from the path of a pure reparations program. And so we want to, address those things tonight. And we brought Brother Cash on. Brother Mud is supposed to be joining us. And anybody else that wants to jump into the conversation, we can do that. Brother Logic, you have anything to say before we bring the brothers on?
Yeah, peace, peace, peace. Yes. And so, what our aim and objective in all that we do here at Be the Power is to do our best to ensure that the people have the education, have the mindset, and have the most refined positions when it comes to the civil rights justice work that we're doing in our pursuit for power. So we have worked tirelessly, self-sacrifice, right? You understand? Like, it's not about us when we do this work. It's not about me and a I thing. It's a we and a our. This Freedmen movement is ours by birthright. Logic don't own it. Naheem don't own it. Ali, Josh, Be the Power don't own that. But we take a deep, deep seriousness as custodians of this legacy, because we have to make sure this is fulfilled. This is too serious of an undertaking to allow uh just anything to go. When, if you see something that you feel is counterproductive, right? You have to address it among the community so that we all can have some unit cohesion as we move forward in this fight for justice and repair. You understand? So our goal is to talk to everyone. And many of you listening tonight, and many of you knows, we have made a constant effort, a consistent effort to get it in touch with, communicate with, coordinate, and work with everyone who is serious about doing this work, right? This ancestral calling. You understand? And so during this time, like all times of any serious change or reform being made, the people with that make up those coalitions, they always have disagreements. There's nothing wrong or strange or odd about having disagreements. You understand? But the sincerity will lead you to having those tough conversations with your comrades before we make decisions on how we execute and move forward. But like, let me hash this out with the family, and I'm going to represent my position strong, but I'm going to listen to the other side of the family and hear their issues, and I will only submit to what is right for the people, just like we will. That is our position on everything. If someone can come on here and prove what we're saying is not right and exact, and that there's a better approach, we will submit to that. And we are not afraid of having those discussions with other folks. We have been on many programs, and we always invite anyone to come on ours. And we have shown consistently over the years that we don't have a problem going on anybody's program and having this discussion. Because if you're truly about being correct and by being successful and victorious in this pursuit for justice, right, you're willing to do anything to refine yourself. And so, with that being said, right, these conversations, we have to bridge the gap. Our youth and our middle and our elders have to be cohesive, right? And we have to build that cohesion, and that only comes by building relationships. So we got to get this conversation done tonight, and hopefully it's good. But it is in the title, y'all see it. It is a position that I'm pretty sure many of you have heard before, and it is a split within the reparationist community over a couple issues. And so it's important to have these public conversations so that not only they can be had amongst the proponents of these ideas, but that the general public can also listen to these ideas being hashed out, and they can weigh in on what they think is right and exact for our justice, because I don't stake no claim and nobody has a monopoly on it. So the 6.2 quadrillion will be discussed. Also, the concept of the slogan or the program, or we'll let them explain that, of the 40 acres and a Tesla concept. So that's all I got, brother. Until next
Okay.
time, we'll get
No
it in.
doubt, no doubt. So we gonna bring Brother Cash on. We gonna bring Brother Mud on, and we gonna have the conversation. Y'all brothers introduce yourselves. We're familiar with each other from Clubhouse, et cetera, and but the family might not know who y'all are. That follows Be the Power platform.
Shit, you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead, Brother Cash.
I just want to make sure my camera's focused. Yeah, what's good, y'all? My name is Cash Gaines. I'm a reparationist, as was said earlier. I've spent the last 10 years as a breakdancer and filmmaker, traveling the world, over 30 countries, filming dance competitions for the YouTube channel I own called Yak Films. But in those travels and in those conversations, the Black identity came up over and over again. And I felt like the Black American history was getting chiseled down and erased. And I started learning about what we were owed. And I've just been carrying it since. That's all I talk about. That's all I live for, is our people and our liberation.
Indeed, Brother Mud.
Yeah, I don't know. Are we still having a problem with the delay? Or can y'all
I
hear
mean,
me?
we could hear you. We could
Okay.
hear you. It looked like your camera is freezing in and out, but
Oh shit.
we could hear you though. Go ahead, bro.
All right. Well, I'm John Mudd. I've been in this space for about 3 years now. I follow the ADOS movement. Right now, I have my own podcast, Reset Race. You know, where we kind of do what everybody else is doing in the space, which is trying to educate on our justice claims. So, you know, that's where I'm at. Let's get to it.
Indeed, indeed. So, Brother Logic, where do you want to go with this thing first? You want to start with the 6.2 quadrillion, and
Yeah,
let's have that discussion because we've,
Yeah.
voiced our opposition to this
Yeah,
inordinate number
when it
plenty of
first
time.
started, when it first
Mhm.
started being talked about, we expressed our concerns with it, and when it initially first came out. But yeah, let's start with that, and then like y'all lay that out, what y'all plan is about that, what y'all concepts surrounding that, and we can discuss that topic first.
Well,
Yeah,
Cash,
so
go first.
yeah, I'm gonna rock this. Yeah, I'm gonna rock this one. So right. So the 40 acres in a Tesla hashtag. Essentially,
Wait. We gonna get to that one. We gonna get to that
we
one.
do 6.2 quadrillion first.
We gonna do with the. Let's get to the 6.2 quadrillion. We want to hear a breakdown of that.
Yeah, I hear y'all. I just want to start by saying that the 40 acres and a mule claim, right, was even at that time technically a low ball compared to the Homestead Act, which was 160 acres, right? So I just want to mention that there's sometimes where we look like we're arguing for what we deserve, and we might be lowballing ourselves. I want to start there. The quadrillion figure, 6.2 quadrillion. First of all, I had never heard the word quadrillion before in my life. In studying reparations worldwide, I got 5 maps around me, 2 globes, reparations that have happened in Kenya with the Mau Mob, in Namibia, all these different places. With Kenya, they got paid like $2,500 a person for like an 8-year atrocity, right, by the British government. And I'm like, that's not consequential at all. And thinking that American reparations is going to be such a small figure, I was ready to leave the reparations movement.
All right, hold on. I just want to act because we need clarity. When you say hearing that the reparations number was such a small figure, give us some context.
Yeah, I can look it up to be specific, but there's a tribe in Kenya that for 8 years after arguing that they wanted their independence, white folks tortured them on their own land and they got paid reparations. It was like $2,500 a person. If Black American reparations was going to be something like that, I wasn't even interested. It seemed inconsequential. I made an assumption that American reparations would be quantified at a similar figure. I made a foolish assumption. Luckily, I didn't stop becoming a reparationist, though. I moved on from that in looking at other reparations claims. By the time I got back to America and we were on the book by Dr. William Darity and his wife, Kirsten Mullen, I started hearing about trillions. And let me even take that walk. It was a dude running for president who used to be a Republican. He paid money to get on the Democrat stage, right? He said that Black folks are owed reparations when he was standing in Tulsa. And he said that it was $60 billion, knowing that his own net worth was 67 or something. So the disrespect, first of all. Then Marianne Williamson, right? She was 100 billion. After going to the ADOS conference, she moved up to 500 billion by the time she was on the Democratic stage, right? Amongst the 19 and all that. So I saw these numbers rise and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, is there even a way to calculate this? Are we basing it off of, blood money, off of per rape and per body part cut off? Is there a way to quantify what happened to us? And again, I want to specify that I'm a direct cash payments and land person for our reparations claim. I know that it is diverse, but the direct cash payments part to me. So I was like, how do we quantify it? Dr. Darity, with his trying to close the racial wealth gap, I definitely understand the logic there, but I want to present an idea to y'all. If somebody owes you $100 for the work you did, and they got $10 left over in modern day, you being equal to their $10 is not reparations. All right. If they've been spending that $100 on other communities, on outsourcing jobs outside of America, all right, they've been spending our stolen wealth. So I want my full $100. All right. And so what is that figure? How do you calculate that? Now, Dr. Darity, I've heard about 12 trillion. When I hear the word trillion, I cringe. All right. Because the new word is quadrillion. And the reason why is because of a German guy who has no reason to lie, a German American, right? Who after 30 years of studying implicit racial bias is now looking for reparations. And just how he quantified it, and it's simple enough for me to understand, I feel like, from 1776, because HR 40 screwed over. It starts at 1619. We got the fixed HR 40. Shout out to Dr. Darity yet again. 1619 is the British colony to 1776, and ain't even America then. But from 1776 to 1860, not even during the actual years of the end of the Civil War, right? He was able to quantify based on the unskilled labor wage. That's the minimum wage at the time. And let me be clear for a second that my ancestors were not unskilled. We were the artisans, craftsmen, architects, inventors, so on and so forth. I can't belabor the point. So, but let's just say we got the minimum wage with a 24-hour day's wage because niggas couldn't clock out. And I ain't letting that go, a 24-hour day's wage. At a 6% interest rate, we would be owed the 6.2 quadrillion he mentioned. Now, that 6% interest rate, people have been arguing about. He even waffles on it. He says 3% is the normal, but that's only going to leave us at like 18, 20 trillion. Now, quadrillion is 151 million per Black American. I see that when I look in the mirror. I'll make that very clear. So the 6% interest rate can be argued because Georgetown University sold 272 of our enslaved ancestors with a 6% interest rate on that deal. So that's where he got that from. And he said, if we research a little bit, we'll realize that Black Americans have been victims of even up to 13% interest rates of predatory loans. So he says that it's up to us to argue that, and that's going to be one of the most consequential figures for our reparations claim. I'll stop there.
Indeed. So,
hold up, Mud, you got something to add to that?
Yeah. So, basically, we are going with Thomas Kramer, like Cash is talking about. This is someone who Dr. Darity cited in From Here to Equality. And Cash is correct. Dr. Darity's numbers as far as closing the racial wealth gap is, I think he's talking about $10 to $12 trillion. Now, if you divide that among, 37 million Black Americans or whatever the number might be, I'm just going to use that number. It comes out to, 320,000 per descendant. Dr. Darity is talking about dividing that up for 10 years, and that comes out to about 32,000 each year for each descendant. From my perspective, that is not enough. I understand that Dr. Darity also—
hold on. I just got to ask, where are you getting that number from? That you just cited about the 32, what you said, 32,000 for 10 years?
Yeah, that's what happens when you divide 12 trillion by 37 million. You get about 320,000. Then you divide that up by 10 years, which is Dr. Darity's plan, which comes out to about 32,000 per year. Now, from my perspective, I don't think that's enough. And Dr. Darity says that at least what a reparations program should do is close the racial wealth gap, which leads me to believe that he also doesn't think that's enough. I think that he cited Thomas Kramer in his book, and that's usually the number people go with, which is about the 17 to $20 trillion, which is the Thomas Kramer's low number at the 3% interest rate. Now, what we feel is that people are ignoring his high number, when in reality, Thomas Kramer gives us both numbers and says that the great debate that should be between us and the American government is the interest rate, between that 3 and 6% interest rate. Now, the reason why we go with the high number is so that that is actually included in the discussion. Everyone wants to talk about the 12, everyone wants to talk about the 20, and we understand that we want to start high and have them negotiate us down. So, I'm rocking with the quadrillion, even though I realize that that's kind of crazy, but at the same time, I am not a politician, I'm not a lobbyist, I'm not an economist. I am just a descendant of the people who are owed that money. And from my perspective, I want every penny. But, I think that we should be the people that are pushing the radical position behind the politicians, behind the economists. So when they talk about a practical amount, we're talking about something that's, going to last multiple generations. And I think that's also something that is not really discussed. Dr. Derry says 10 years. I think that if we were enslaved in this country for 89 years, we should have something that is comparable to that as far as payments that are paid out to us. Now, we can negotiate on that and maybe bring it down to something like 50 years, but I still think it has to be multiple generations that receive some type of payment. And with the numbers that Dr. Darity is talking about, we're not going to be able to do that. And I think that at the very least, we should be shooting for something that is maybe closer to 100 trillion. But again, like I said, I'm going to shoot for the stars and have them talk me down. And that's what I got to say.
Indeed. All right, Brother Logic, you want to go in?
Yeah. And so, all right. Thanks for that, brothers. So what I want to talk about this, right? First of all, what I think a lot of the issue is, right, is I think a lot of people have the sequence backwards, or they focus on the sequence in reverse, right? And what I'm gonna give an example what I mean by that, right? So when we're talking about how much money do we need for dinner, and that's what the bulk of our focus is. How much money do we need to dinner for dinner, right? We all want to eat. I want to feed the family. How much money do I need for dinner, right? And then we go about how much this person may eat, how much that person may eat, and all of that, right? But we don't even think about what is actually going to be cooked. What is the ingredients for dinner, right? To create an accurate number, you would need to know what's for dinner first to know how much that dinner is going to cost, because each one of those items have a different cost to it. Whether you're eating cabbage for 15 people, whether it's going to be cornbread, whatever it may be. That's what's for dinner, but I need to know what's for dinner. And then whatever dinner costs is how much money I need to go get it. You understand? And so one thing we have to understand in this game of government and politics is how it's played. We have to be very careful with our language, and we have to be very sophisticated with our tactics and strategy. That's everything within our messaging and to how we present our case in the public. And so we know that first reporter that reported on that 6.2 quadrillion piece elevated that into this discussion to try to make it look unrealistic, right? Because the public, they hear numbers like that and they freak out because they already have another horrific problem in their misunderstanding of monetary operations in the first place. And so they already have been infected by deficit hawks and debt freaks, and they have already been miseducated on how the U.S. government funds programs in the first place. And so now, like, that has to be dealt with. And so you can actually have a sound strategy, especially when you're talking about money. So the money is really not even an issue, especially once you understand how the U.S. fiscal operations is conducted, right? And so what we need to be focused on is what is going to repair the damage that has been done to a specific category of people that the federal government classified as freedmen, right? So when we look at what happened to the freedmen, right, the government addressed them. They knew quite clearly what needed to happen to get rid of the vestiges and badges of slavery and transition the freed men and women and children into a economic life. You understand? And so they protection, right? You saw all these legislative changes that were destroyed, that we were never able to benefit from due to unconstitutional state policies, right? White mob violence and domestic terrorism. And so when we talk about funding, right? So we're talking about cash payments to individuals. Cash payments to individuals. I want 6.2 quadrillion cash payments to individuals, right? I understand having a congressional commitment on a capital infusion is that would be a constitutional commitment to me. You got to start with the money. I understand that. I get that point. And I'm with that wholeheartedly, because in a capitalistic society, if you want to start repairing the people or giving them a chance in that society, you have to start with what's most important in that society, and that's the actual capital. I understand that. But we have to be smart about how we go about getting it. When we're all said and done with it, right? And we got full closure, the price tag could have well reached 6.2 quadrillion. But it's not, in my personal opinion, an assessment, wise strategy to lead loudly talking about that's how much money we want in a political climate that doesn't understand how money works in America anyway, right? So I would center my focus about the repair of the damage and make an emotional appeal to the people, not a financial one. This is an emotional, that's what Dr. King was so smart at. He made it a moral issue, right? And used the most powerful argument appeal, which is the pathos, the passion, right? And so we have to do this because it's right. And when we're building that case, the specificity comes from the actual reneged promises of the federal and state governments. There's so many documents. So now we know perfectly the ingredients that we need because our ancestors knew what they needed. That's why when you go and look at that's why the only way to find the answers is in the Freedmen history. So when you go and you look at the testimonies that were conducted under the United States Freedmen Inquiry Commissions, right? You hear Freedmen saying, they're asking them, what do y'all need? Right. And they talked about protection. They talked about contracting to build their own so that they can be self-reliant and independent in the capitalism. They talked about land ownership and the ability to own land and do what they needed to do. And that's what the recipe was built on when you get the Freedmen's Acts of 1865 and 1866. It's those testimonies and those recommendations from that commission and other reports where you get the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and the language that go into it, right? And so the suffrage, right? How do we have to understand that this government is about power, and to repair us is to replace our power position in America. That is the full closure. Because when at the end of the Civil War, the motivation for the violence not was just y'all let my niggas go. If you read the reports from Provisional Governor Perry and the committees of white folks from South Carolina and Mississippi and stuff like that, they talked about what the true fear was, and that was a fear of a Negro majority in state government. That's where the power is. So when we talk about funding programs, if we have control over the political vehicle, that now we make the terms. Now we are the majority that installs people into the Senate and installs people into the House of Representatives. You understand? That's the only way we can secure our destiny, right? We have to in this government. That's how we have to do that. And so we have to be wise. So like I said, after closure is met, the price tag could well have been, we could have ran up 6.2 trillion. They would have never even known, or even higher. It's infinite in my mind. That's why I don't feel a need to put a salary cap on it. When we get into what y'all talked about, I heard a lot of critiquing of Dr. Darity's work, and that's fine because these people their work is for the people, and nobody is above critique. You understand? And so, but I think there's a misunderstanding of what his intent was when he came out with that baseline number. And people can debate baselines and say, okay, this is the floor of that closure based upon his research, right? So based upon his research, that's how he determined what would be the best or the most intelligent path to closing that gap. I have my own critiques of that. I respect his scholarship, but I also say whether it's 6.2 quadrillion or whether it's any amount of trillions or billions, liquid is not going to close a wealth gap. The wealth is about what you owe versus what you own versus what you owe. You understand? An ownership gap is what the real issue is here, and what we have been, and what is the result of being locked out of America, locked out of capitalism, locked out of ownership by unconstitutional state policies. You understand? Violating the 1866 Civil Rights Act, violating the 14th Amendment, violating constitutional law. That's what we have been suffering from. And so when no matter how much it is, if we don't own anything and have our institutions protected, right, then we'll end up right back where we're at, right? So however the amount is necessary to fund the programs that have already been legislated into existence, just need to be reallocated and re-added to the budget because they've never been taken off the books, is the focal point in my assessment. The reinstitution of these programs and policies that the government already agreed was necessary and that we can thoroughly prove got either overthrown, ransacked, was poisoned with malfeasance, or we were outright killed, destroyed, burnt down. So we got too much evidence for that type of case, right? And that's a Freedmen case. And so once we understand that, right? That's really my, so I'm not even here to have a mathematical debate of whether your 6 quadrillion based on your research is an accurate number, because to me, that's not really the focus. My focus is, I know the government can pay for whatever we need to be made whole. And so I don't even care about trivializing over numbers, because I know they're just points on the keyboard that the federal U.S. Treasury has control over anyway, and they won't have to print flatbeds of money out. They just mark people's account up. You understand? If they wanted to, they can issue everybody debit cards. You understand? I know they can do that. They do it all the time. So that's not an issue for me. It could be 6 sextillion dollars. I don't care when it's all said and done, but because I'm concerned with the real things, the real resources, and the raw assets. That's real wealth. Wealth is not currency, right? Currency is a financial instrument, right? It helps you protect wealth. It helps you enhance wealth and increase wealth and move through a capitalistic society. But the real assets, the real resources, is what's the real value. That's why your home is wealth, right? It's an appreciating asset. And this is going to segue into the next kind of the discussion about the other point after Brother Naheem speaks, and I'm gonna close out here. And so I just say, I think it would be more wise, or the part of wisdom, to focus on our pursuit and acquisition on the things already spelled out in constitutional law that they owe us. We always say it's a debt owed, but we don't really go deep into what is actually owed and where they said that they owed it to us, right? That's in the all this Freedmen history, this government records and reports from federal commissions, you understand, legislative acts, all's telling you that they owe us. It can't be denied, right? And so once you tie into that Freedmen status, we get our protections, birthrights, and we can move forward in this American life. And so that's really what I got to say about that.
All right, so I want to let me go into our website first and foremost. Hold on, our website been up for a couple months. Reparations 101, because we provide the answers based on the scholarship. That's what we do. Put that link in the chat. So let's blow this up a little bit, because I've heard some claims about Dr. Darity's number. And I've even seen one guy start a room that say Dr. Darity is an op. That was funny to me. So we don't do man worship over here. What we do is we respect the scholarship over here. That's why we read all the time. We have book clubs. We post up information. We're always referencing information to the family, right? So let's go into our website on BETHEPOWER.org, Reparations 101, which we presented to Dr. Darity because we wanted to make sure that we were on point. And the only thing we were off point about was some grammatical errors and some numbers needed to be updated. So let's look at what Dr. Darity is saying. And I want to give a special shout out to somebody that's in the chat that's just talking. All right. So William Darity Jr., the leading, wait, let me make sure everybody can see this because, oh yeah, everybody can see that. William Darity Jr., the leading socio-economist on the topic of reparations, and folklorist A. Kirsten Mullen give the clearest monetary breakdown of what is owed the descendants of freedmen in America, right? Now, we say monetary breakdown because we're talking about cash payments, right? We're dealing with closing the racial wealth gap, closing that gap with cash payments. So he says, and this is an updated version of what he put out from the, I believe it's the Roosevelt Institute report. Somebody correct me on that. But this is the updated version. They say, we view the black-white wealth gap as a blight on the nation. While the 40 million eligible recipients of Black reparations constitute about 12% of the American population, they possess less than 2% of the nation's wealth. This translates into an average or mean differential per household of about $840,000 in net wealth. Ultimately, A well-designed reparations program could have a powerful impact on producing greater wealth equality among Black Americans. Consider the median to mean ratio. Suppose all Black households received an additional $841,900 to make up the mean deficit. This is where reading just simply comes in at. Simple reading. As of 2019, the Black median to mean ratio per household was $24,100 slash or to $188,200, or approximately 13%. If the Black mean rises to the same level as the white mean through the provision of an additional $841,900 to each Black household, the Black median to mean ratio would change dramatically to $841,900 to $983,400, or approximately 87%. So from 13% to 87%. Essentially, this breaks down to around $850,000 per household for the descendants of the formerly enslaved freedmen. Ideally, these payments would be distributed to each eligible freedman over a 10-year period. This would amount effectively to $85,000 per year in either weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly direct payments to the freedmen descendants. This will close directly the racial wealth gap with respect to household net worth. When Dr. Darity says that the 14 trillion, because he updated it last year, when I believe it was the new, it could have been earlier this year, I can't recall, but he updated it, $14 trillion. This is what he's talking about. He's talking about closing the household wealth gap, right? And that's only one element of closing this particular gap, right? The racial wealth gap is generational and it's multifaceted. Baseline, I mean, it's simple to just look up what the word baseline means. The reparations program, as Brother Logic said, you can't put a cap on it. So what you do is you have you get the programs implemented and Congress to fund them. They get put into the budget. And then the things that we are demanding from what's owed to us, they get done through these programs while we get the direct cash payments over that 10-year period. So these numbers that you and Dawn and the rest of y'all have come up with, I'm confused by. Maybe my math is off, but we gave it to the good doctor himself so that he can edit it and make sure that we wasn't misrepresenting anybody's word. So I'm curious. To see.
Before y'all, can you pull that back up? Before y'all
sure.
Address that, right? And give y'all plenty of time to address that. I just want to make two good points. For one, right, you broke down what he was speaking to specifically. So Darity was talking about a very specific thing there. He was very specific at what his target objective was. So he spoke to that. And if you look at his research and you really thoroughly look at it, I think it's pretty sound. Whether you agree with the number or not, you can see how he came up with that based on the information that he presented, right? And so coming up with another research paperwork or whatever your project you did and presented it and let it stand on its face to be examined. I mean, that's one thing we can look at what you based your research on and leg it out and just look at and see if this makes sense, adding it to a reparations program. Because one thing, a good comment from O.L. Griffin, right? O.G. Otis, right? He says a couple good comments. First, I want to just highlight this comment. It says, we're doing math about total reparations package, and from here to equality is about a specific, significant, essential component of a pure reparations program. And so when Dr. Darity and others of the like are having this concept, I think it kind of gets pigeonholed into a linear focus on what people are most interested in. I don't blame them for being most interested. Them cash payments is serious, right? And so, but I think they lose sight of the large picture and what the context he's talking about this in because of that focus. And so, another good comment, Otis, he says, racial wealth gap is just the minimum Pure reparations is more than the dispersal of individual funds. Full stop. Right. And so with that understanding, we have to talk about these different dynamics of reparations repair. Right. So what's that? Somebody said something.
No, I don't know what just happened.
Well,
Yeah. Okay. And so like, I think a lot of things have to be put in context, and something very important, that the whole equality part, right? Where that part at, where they talked about equality among Black Americans, right? Ultimately, a well-designed reparations program. See, this part right here introduces the larger picture, right? Outside of closing this wealth gap. It says ultimately a well-designed reparations program. That's what I was getting at and talking about when I opened up with my initial statements, right? A well-designed, this has to be the ultimate focus, right? That expert research was done to serve a specific purpose, speaking to a specific situation about closing that particular gap at the mean, right? And so the ultimate goal is a well-designed pure reparations program, and that could have a powerful impact on producing greater wealth equality among who? Black Americans, right? And so again, very specific with the language. And so I just want people to keep that in mind when they analyze their positions on said information. So I want to, that's all I got. I want to let y'all respond to that.
Can I jump in now?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I think we all understand that it's more than the money. I think even Cash with the 40 acres and the Tesla, just coming up with that alone indicates that we understand that it's more than the money. But I think that if we are going to talk about the money portion of it, a lot of us, I think on this side of the reparations movement is saying, okay, we're going to base the money part on the lost wages from slavery. All these other things that happen afterwards are more than enough justification for land, housing, and protections, and all types of things that could be added to this reparations program. But if we're going to talk about the cash, even like based on the numbers that you showed, it's talking about per household. It's not saying per descendant. So we're talking about dividing it up amongst 3 or 4 people. And I'm sorry, I do not feel like that's enough. I feel like there should be more on the money portion. And that's why I'm focusing, I'm sorry, but that's why I'm focusing on Thomas Kramer's numbers in that regard. But that's not to mean that I'm disrespecting Dr. Daugherty's work. I definitely agree that he came out with a very good plan that is very practical. But we also need people pushing the envelope so that we don't just get the bare minimum. And that's basically my position.
And if I may, I was going to say, Logic, I really like your analogy of we need to keep in mind what it is we're about to eat at the table, right? What are the ingredients, as you said before? I think of it as, can we even eat that big a cake, right? 6 quadrillion, can that even be printed in money? And John can probably speak to the modern monetary theory, but we all know that the money's not backed by anything, and we've seen studies that say that paying Black Americans is a reinvestment. So paying us even more is a bigger reinvestment. The entire planet spends 900 trillion in a year. So we're asking for more than the entire planet spends in a year. That's why it sounds ridiculous, right? That's what's on the plate to eat. So this needs to be paid out over a long period of time. I'm saying 75 years, which is an average lifespan. And if you're paid the 151 million per Black American, and I see this as a down payment, I want to be very clear. All right, because it was only up until 1860 that you calculated this. I'm not trying to be equal to white folks in their modern day wealth. I can't stress that enough. I don't care about no racial wealth gap. That's the baseline, I guess. So I can leave that to the side. Again, if it was 151 million per Black American over a 75-year lifespan, that is $2,021,033 a year per Black American. That is $168,000 a month and change. All right. Now, I just want to leave that out there. When we talk about that 850,000 per household per person, either way, one check over 10 years, that ain't what we talking about. It's lifetime payments. Holocaust survivors got lifetime payments. I ain't doing that. It was multi-generational harm. It needs to be a multi-generational fix. So I mentioned Oregon in a chat that y'all had when Darity was in the chat as well. And he hadn't heard about Senate Bill 619, but you guys were able to pull it up. I think you guys have debunked it since, because there's some problems with it. I agree, there's a lot of problems with it. There's a deadline for you to be able to apply. So we had 400 years of oppression, but you got until 2022 to sign up for it. That don't make no sense. But it's tax-free, city, county, and municipal tax-free, not subject to bankruptcy or insolvency law, all of that. And again, Oregon is offering $100,000 a year for life. So already in 10 years, I would make more than that, trillions or whatever. And that's just on the state level. So if Oregon can afford that, California better offer a cool $1 million a year per person for life. And again, that state reparations does not negate the federal reparations claims, does not negate the city reparations claims. Shout out to the moremayors.org. The mayor in Los Angeles supports reparations, pilot programs. I wanted to say that some states, and I heard this from Dr. Darity himself, some states can close the racial wealth gap now because we have such a small population in them now. And I can mention Oregon back in that same breath. After 10 years, you would have closed the racial wealth gap and you'd already start to show that you're owed your full $100, not no $10 that they got left over. State and federal checks, I can't stress enough, we're getting both of those. I can't stress enough how bad a low ball would be in modern day. This is the low ball, because I've spoken to Dr. Darity and Thomas Kramer on a Zoom together, and they both said they've created a paper since that quantified up to $22 quadrillion. All right. So when Elon Musk or somebody says he's going to Mars, we don't laugh at that. But when I bring up that I want to start a yacht company for all black folks to be able to ride around their yacht, and that I'm going to be Captain Cash, and that my yacht's going to be called Quadrillion, people laugh. All right. And one other thing is St. Paul, Minnesota is arguing for reparations in perpetuity. As long as you got the last name that goes with a Freedman last name, you're going to be receiving reparations. And they said they've been celebrating Juneteenth for so long. So my second yacht's going to be called Perpetuity. My yachts are Quadrillion and Perpetuity.
All right, that's cool. I get all that, right? And so I got a couple questions. So one thing, do you look at this cash payments to individuals as outside of a reparations program? Just that, a quick answer for that for me.
No, it's the biggest part of it.
No, not at all.
Okay, okay, it's cool. So that's fine, right? And so what else goes into this program? And I just do want to say he also said weekly or bi-weekly too when he mentioned the 850, right? So so if even if a family of, even if you divide 850 among a family of 4, that's and you give that to them, that's like $212,000 per individual or something close to it like that. Some around there, something around 200,000, right? Somebody got a calculator, they can get the accurate number.
It's about that amount, but then over 10 years, that's.
But let's say it's bi-weekly, so you got that twice a month for 10 years.
Well, you're not getting that full amount for like a monthly payment. It would be dividing that, so it would be 20 grand every year. You divide that by 12, which means you're going to get less than $2 grand. So yeah, that's not working for me.
Let's see, so break that how you came down to that understanding.
Yeah, so he's talking about 850,000, and then he's saying doing that over 10 years, that comes to 85,000. You divide that up amongst 4 people, that comes to 21 and some change, and then you divide that by 12. That's going to be like somewhere around 1,800 or something like that. So
okay, yeah, and so all right, I wanted to see what you was gonna say about that, but so okay, that is, if that's the most important part to you, right? What would be the next main priority? To protect it, right? What has been the reoccurring problem whenever we have had anything, right? We've been visited upon about what, like legal atrocities, physical actual atrocities, malfeasance of the highest order, state oppression, right? And so without a focus on protecting, because we're going to go into the legislation here in a minute and say what the freedmen already knew what the problem was going to be, no matter how successful they was or how much money they got. They knew what the problem was going to be. The problem still exists today, right? And so without a supreme focus on how you're going to secure that, because no matter how much you're talking about, at the end of the day, there's no one more important issue of the freedmen of today than economic security. So how are you going to secure it when you still got the same criminals in the bank, the same criminals in the Senate, same criminals in the House of Representatives, same people controlling who gets what, when, where, and how? The supreme focus should always be on power. And then we can secure everything we know we want and we deserve. But if we don't get no power, how are you going to make anything happen? Like, again, I don't trivialize over the number. I trivialize over the strategy. You understand? And how are we going to get these things off? As I already told you, at the end of closure, I don't care what the ticket is. I'm concerned with the tactics to accomplish these missions, right? And is that the best strategy to lead with that? Like I said, and when we talk, you mentioned something that I have to address. And if Mud is familiar with monetary operations of today, then he can confirm, right? It wouldn't be, if the government's not, first of all, to say that the money is not backed by anything is not an accurate statement, right? It's just not backed by any limited commodity like gold or something like that, right? So the money is backed, right? And the America has monetary sovereignty, which means there's no constraints over funding any program. It's not based on taxes. You understand? The federal debt is not an issue. You understand, right? And so what? And so the federal debt, obviously, look at the federal debt, and I'm glad let's focus on that for a second. Do we know what the federal debt is? The federal debt is nothing but U.S. Treasury bonds. It's U.S. currency that has been transferred into Treasury bonds, which is basically a savings account at the U.S. Fed, where your money can accrue interest as a financial instrument. The freedmen's have the largest debt, right? So, and that's one of the strongest financial instruments in the American monetary system. Why are we, so having that? This is what rich people buy. This is what this is what they want. They want those treasury bonds. You understand? That's a powerful thing. So so owning that debt is really, that debt is owed to the freedmen. You understand? So I haven't looked into anybody, I haven't heard anybody talk about the importance of those bonds, because they are superior. The currency is just like spendable money, right? It sit there and it don't make no more money for you, right? But we're talking about interest, right? So I would think we would have a supreme focus on the interest bearing assets, right? And then talk about, right? So if we had those treasuries on top of the liquid that we talking about at the baseline, and Darity has openly said he's definitely not against someone coming up with a higher figure, right? He already opened the door up for people to come with higher figures. And so if that is the case, right? And we know we talked about interest and all of that, right? Why not be having a focus on the one of the best interest bearing financial instruments the government has to offer, and we are owed that as well. And when you combine that with the liquid, now the things that you say aren't enough start to become different. When you combine that with the contract enforcements, the ownership demanding, so this is would be a good segue into the next part, right? When we talk about the land appropriations for the freedmen, right? Like, I want to say like this. I'm really not trying to be facetious when I say this, but the 40 acre and a mule concept, right? What you're really saying is we want 40 acres in a depreciable asset. That's not repair for the federal government reneging on that 40 acre guarantee. And really, when you attach that, right? So what undergirds that slogan, right? So if we stop at Special Field Order 15, that can really be beat up in a counter argument because of the limitations of that military field order. But when we attach it to, because the reparationists of that time understood what needed to be done to protect that. That was something that could have been done in the moment, right? And so when we understand that, that's when Congress, the radical Republicans in Congress, in the Senate, had to make it mean something. So we came up with the Freedmen Refugees and Abandoned Lands Act of 65, and we had to redo it again in 66, and we came with the Civil Rights Act of 66, right? So we knew what we needed what needed to be done in a very specific way. And in 1865, what was special. That's why that really should be the undergirding of any kind of 40 acre land grant or any kind of land grant to the freedmen, that specific congressional commitment. That so now you're weighing a congressional commitment against the commitment of a field general, right? And so that is a stronger argument when you make that argument and then make that claim, because that is a congressional commitment. And so now, once we understand the intent, the policy intent of the special field order, we understand that the mule part of it, that's intent was really a happenstance, because they did not want to spend the money it takes feeding and watering the animals to get them back to the north. So they said they met with freedmen right here in Savannah, Georgia, where I'm at right now, and they had the discussion where they came up with Special Field Order 15, right? And so the mules were thrown in as an asset of that time to help cultivate the land and work the land, a work beast or a work animal, right? And something that appreciates value and help them pull value out of the land, right? And so that, to me, if we're restoring the effects of that being stolen from us, we have to fulfill that original intent. And asking for 40 acres in a Tesla, which is a depreciable asset, that does not fulfill that, right? And so what our demand should be centered around is for the land appropriation that was guaranteed to us, and the economic security, the government undergirding to develop the land, to make communities, because guess what else the freedmen did? Our ancestors did everything that we need to do. We just need to make sure it's fulfilled. They set up freedmen communities and freedmen towns. We've put up a laundry list of that, all those documents all over the goddamn internet world, right? And so these are real things, and all we have to do is make good on. This is the case. This is what they destroyed. They destroyed the freedmen towns and communities and societies all over the country, right? We want them refunded and rebuilt and reappropriated to the people whose birthright that belongs to, right? And so that's the intent. So when we make these arguments, these failed policies have to be what undergirds us, because they can't argue against it. The government already made a congressional commitment to that. So now, so we can't just be like, all right, I want to create a way for this, and then use a slogan like 40 acres and a Tesla, and because it's a nice sounding slogan. I'm not knocking on how it sounds, but when we look at that, it's like, what program undergirds that? We're doing government work, right? We're not just marketing ideas. We're doing government. And we have to understand how to operate in government and how to play that game. And we have to have more sophisticated strategies and ways to go around and use some type of deceptive tactics to get what we want. Because if your true goal is 6.2 quadrillion, right? The success is achieving that, right? It's achieving that, whether it's larger or bigger, right? I'm using that as an example. No matter how, whatever your amount is, right? Mission success is to be victorious in getting that. And so if you have to talk about it in a different way, but you ultimately get that result, then that's the wisest thing to do. Because again, you have to juxtapose that and compare that to the political. Where's that going to be done at? It's going to be done in the political arena. And we have to assess that climate. Us not having any state control. If we controlled like 5 states in the South, I wouldn't care what you said, because we would have enough power in the Senate to make that real, right? We'd have enough control over the Treasury in the House of Representatives to make that real, right? So then I wouldn't care. We do whatever we want to do. It would be a whole bunch of Trumps running around down south, right? And we do whatever we want to do. But we don't have that. We are displaced all over America, and we don't constitute a majority in any state in the United States. And this is a democratic republic built on federalism. We are in the losing position. So we have to use better tactics to get the things that we want. That's my ultimate critique of that. And we can move into the 40 acres and the Tesla concept.
Yeah, so we want the brothers to see. I was trying to pull this comment up real quick. I think it was Ms. Gilly said something about I don't know why I cannot see this comment. I want to put it up on the screen, because somebody came on my Twitter page, and I guess they said I was a hating old head. Because these are the millennial reparationists. So somehow I was hating because I summed up what my brother just said in a tweet. But okay, there we go. Ms. Gilly said his slogan has caught national attention to the idea of our demands. That's an exaggeration, which has led the country down a deeper rabbit hole when it comes to our claim. My question is, what have you done to do the same? We are doing our part. That's number one. Everything that we do, everything, for instance, my brother Logic was just breaking down, is based on the research that we have done. It's based on sound strategies that have already been not just put together, but have been shown to work, which is why we did the book club on The Devil You Know, where he breaks down how the hippies went to Vermont. That was their plan, to go to Vermont and become a political majority there, right? So we're moving off of plans that we know that already work. We're building one brick at a time. We had a very successful reparations rally last June. Brother Cash was there. You know, and a lot of people that's in this chat was there as well. So when you ask what we're doing our part. And if anybody has a problem with anything that we're saying and they invite us to come explain, who in this chat can say that Brother Naheem, Logic, Josh, or Ali is not going to be right there at the forefront, never waiting to have this conversation that we're having now, weeks and weeks and weeks later? No, we would have been right there from the get-go. So everybody just chill and relax. But to answer your question, we are doing our part. We are building brick by brick. My brother Logic has mastered the modern monetary theory information. We've had the creator of the person who uncovered what was going on right here on Be the Power, Warren Mosley. See, y'all too, and I gotta be a little critical right now. Y'all so in Clubhouse, y'all don't know what's going on outside of y'all's own circle, and y'all talking in circles, in my opinion. So y'all can't see. I'm listening to what everybody is saying. So I have the right to critique what everybody is saying because I'm dead serious about this thing. And whoever don't like that, I don't care. Point blank, period. So Cash and Mud, y'all go in. Respond. 40 acres
but I
and a
want to make
Tesla.
this clear. And we can ask you and Mud, y'all can respond to this on here. And if y'all agree with that, let it be known right now, right? And so what I'm saying is, somebody in the chat, right? We appreciate y'all supporting y'all people. But if you feel like throughout what you've heard tonight, somebody's hating on these brothers, or like you asking us, like, what did we do? We mad because we didn't monetize it? That's some goofy shit.
Oh,
I don't
somebody said that?
just listen, just listen, right? I'm not here to hate on nobody. I hope everybody is successful. That's why the fuck I'm doing this in the first place, having this conversation so we can refine our positions together. We named our organization United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, with the principle of unity at the forefront. So I don't do no goofy ass hating. I don't know how to do that. I ain't never been a hater. I'm too blessed to be hating on somebody else. I want the best for my people. That's my brother. Mud, my brother. Cash, my brother. Why the fuck would I hate on them? See, y'all bringing in that negative, toxic energy that y'all was doing in that other shit. We don't do that over here. These are our brothers. And if we got differences like men, we talk about it. We don't have to agree to get along. And because I don't agree with them, I don't want them to not be successful. What kind of, see, that's that nigga mentality. You still got the slave mind. You understand? Because you see brothers up here discussing differences, somebody's hating. Come on, man. And what did we do that caught wind? We just talked about in the front. But if we talk about it a lot, people say we gloating. Everybody else can talk about what they do, but when BTP talk about it, we're gloating and shit.
Gloating.
You seen all kind of reparation and shit go all over the goddamn country. We started that. You understand? You seen marches on Washington, all that. Nobody was using reparationist language to the but that's why we did it. We brought it for the people. We didn't hate on nobody, right? And now you got the Freedmen movement on fire. Freedmen everywhere. We brought that. We resurrected that energy to this space. You understand? So why will we hate when people use it? We want people to be right and exact and right and exact and as successful as they should be. That's why we have these conversations, because other people in space scared to have them. They won't have these conversations in open spaces and make themselves open to the public so the people can weigh in. They want to create little followings so they can have their little mob rule action and do mob rule politics. We do people politics. And we will continue to invite brothers like Mud and Cash and anybody else who has a voice. And we only invite them because we represent their influence in this space. You understand? Because they have people that look up to them and they have people that follow them and leaning on them. You understand? So we want them to be the best version of themselves. That's why we having these hard discussions. Y'all scared to disagree. Y'all don't know how this is government. How can any of you think that you ready to run and represent the freedmen when you don't even want nobody to disagree with you? What the fuck you think your job is at Congress? What you think your job is at your city council meetings? It's all a bunch of disagreements, even when your own constituency. But you scared to disagree and be public about it and hash out the hard disagreements that you have because you're too emotional in this thing. This ain't an emotionalist movement. You understand? This ain't no emotionalism. And we not in this for money. I don't have to make a dime off of anything I do, and I ain't getting this money. That's why I got education and I got job, right? I want what's owed to me because my people was killed and buried in the goddamn ground because of this shit. This is a legacy thing for me. I'm doing this for my babies. A lot of y'all too focused on you, and that's your problem. You. It's not about me. It's about my babies and they babies and my ancestors who died before me. So let's get all of that hating and all that negativity out of the chat. You understand? And let's continue this discussion, man.
Yeah, so Brother Mud and Brother Cash, y'all are up. You know, go in. 40 acres in a Tesla.
Well, I'm gonna let Cash go first, but you know, can you guys like focus on the debate with us versus?
Well, we can, but this is a broad discussion. And it's some people in the chat that, you know, we understand y'all got the people that y'all rock with, right? It's other people that they just drift in the wind. They move from this space, they move from that space, they move to this space, and then they be the main ones trying to influence certain individuals to keep certain things going in a certain type of light. I'm just going to address them directly. So I'm going to address the people in the chat, and I'm going to build
or if that's what you wish, tell your people
platform.
that. Tell them to stop making distracting comments and causing confusion in the chat. Them ain't my people doing that.
Well, I mean, look, I've seen you post like the comments from someone making fun of the yacht comment, and it's like it's happening on both sides. So why not just focus on what we're saying to each other? I'm going to let Cash go ahead and, you know, explain, you know, his slogan, you know, and then, you know, I could follow up behind. But I also wanted to touch on a few things. We're not discounting anything else in the reparations package. The only thing we were talking about was our disagreement about the money. And it seems like because we have a disagreement on the figure for the money, you guys want to make it seem like we're discounting everything else that should be a part of the reparations package. That's including protected class, including education, and all the other stuff that I think all of us agree deserves to be in the reparations package. The only thing we were having an issue about was the figure for the actual cash payments. But I'm gonna let Cash go.
Yeah, and I appreciate the redirect because to me, I was gonna maybe just try to tie a last bow on the cash payments conversation. I thought we were gonna talk about inflation maybe, but I maybe you guys have heard of Raphael Bostic, who's the
we can talk about that. Bring that up. It's open.
Oh, I was just gonna say Raphael Bostic, who's the first Black, but he's actually West Indian, and the first openly gay president of the Federal Reserve Bank in Atlanta, said that the recent stimulus of over 390 million Americans came nowhere near his 2% threshold for inflation. So paying a reparations package to Black Americans would not do anything near what that did. And he said it would obviously have to be an overtime thing. I just wanted to keep that in mind. His name is Raphael Bostic again. I just wanted to reiterate that we should not argue from a place of weakness. If we come in with the baseline figure, they're going to say yes and immediately be out the door. Although to Logic's point, in studying, I'm sorry, my camera cut. I'll switch to another camera, my bad. In keeping up with what Logic just said, boom. Starting there and then building from it. If you check the Holocaust reparations claim, their initial claim was 845 million in the state of Israel. Then they moved on to 125 million in 1988 for lifetime payments. And then in 1999, they did their class action lawsuits, including people who were not Jewish people. It was Jews and non-Jews who sued specific corporations, Siemens Bank, BMW, so on and so forth. I ain't gonna belabor, that's their shit. But again, there's multiple steps to a reparations process. And so in my mind, the 6.2 quadrillion is the beginning of that conversation, not necessarily us being equal to white folks. And I just wanted to walk away after that. And again, John Mudd, I'm glad that you said it ain't just direct cash payments and land. I often get way so focused on that, and it makes it seem like that's all it's going to be. And I appreciate when people redirect. And that's why I was glad that Logic went in on that too. We could also mention the 800 credit score reset for all Black Americans as well, and repatriation for those who want it. There's a lot more that goes into it, and genealogy studies. So now 40 acres in a Tesla. So how did I get to that? I had so many conversations with reparationists and people who were against reparations, didn't understand that Japanese people have been paid. They kept saying, all right, well, look, Black folks gonna get their money. They weren't even talking about land. They were gonna get their money and we're gonna spend it on Mercedes-Benz. We're gonna send it on Versace, Gucci, stuff overseas. And I was like, that's not true. Black Americans reinvest into America, and it's been proven study after study. So I try to find a way to bring up the land conversation while also tying it to the future, green energy, and making it not just about, like I said, a mule, which maybe we should talk about the mule for a second. Okay, an acre, literally an acre is just some made up shit. It's how far a man can plow with an ox in a day. Why were we not offered an ox? The reason why is because this is the end of the Civil War and the military had leftover mules. Let me just Google what mules were used for. The mules were referred to as a four-legged Jeep. During the Civil War, mules were crucial in war efforts. They pulled supply wagons, artillery equipment, and ambulances. Besides wartime activities, the military used mules for delivering aid. All right, so someone said, Logic said a depreciating asset. All right. Let me come back to that. I didn't mean to, I don't know who's in the chat or not in the chat, but if someone's saying that this hashtag is popular, it is a conversation starter. It does bring up our land. It does bring up, like I said, technology. And I didn't mean to be, but just because I called into that task force, I was featured obviously in the Epoch Times. So some folks in LA care about it. And if you read the quotes, it's very specific that I'm saying we need to be on green energy in California by 2035 because of Gavin Newsom with his executive order, right? Which says that any gasoline cars by 2035 going to be taxed. So if this is the California Reparations Task Force, if Tesla's out there in California, it was a no-brainer to me to get the conversation started. I don't want just 40 acres. I want 160 if that's what I'm owed. All right. But I want to be clear that if Californians fuck with Tesla, they need to have a say in that conversation. And yes, let's get to the so Epoch Times, California Research. 40 Acres and a Mule Filmworks. Spike Lee needs to be a part of this conversation, right? Because he's still stuck on the mule. He's still stuck on just 40 acres. Right. I just wanted to mention that. And lastly, okay, so let me get to Obama, who bailed out the car industry. He should have bailed out green energy and had us already on electric cars. But this is a car that we earned. And when I say car, I don't just mean a sedan. I don't just mean a Model 3 or some robot car that drives you. I'm talking about the Tesla Cybertruck, which is bulletproof, made of the same cold pressed stainless steel that he uses for SpaceX for rockets. We deserve one of those each. When Lord Abba, just the facts, when he's talking about he wants a 40 acres and a Ford F-150, the Cybertruck it can pull 14,000 pounds, all electric, and it has solar panels on it in its back bed. So just to compare the two, and the F-150 has an all electric now, EV. But guess what? There's a shortage on production because they don't produce microchips. And guess who does? Tesla does. All right. There's also something called the GigaPress. He's coming out with a tiny ass car that you can build in just 2 pieces and put together. So if we're talking about getting all Black Americans, whatever it is that's going to be figured, is it going to be a tractor? I don't necessarily want a tractor in modern day, and that don't sound sexy in a hashtag. I got to be clear. But the GigaPress, which he has a patent on, right, is able to produce a car in 2 pieces. So we'll be able to produce 1 million cars, and he has a Texas factory he's about to open up by 2023 when California's task force has to be done with their reparations claim. Right? They have a deadline. So he's going to have that factory open by then. Can he deliver 2 million cars to Black Americans in California alone? Because we're 6% of the population there. Yes, he can. Yes, he can. Can Ford do it? I can't speak to their infrastructure. I know they got 1.7 million in production, but I know it's human hands building it. I'll mention my own father, by the way. He works at Ford plant. I'll shout him out. And let me say these last 3 things. People are saying it shouldn't just be a car. You're right. How about the Tesla 18-wheeler? per Black American. That means we control the industry of transportation of goods across the America, the next generation of that. That means every time Target wants to move shit, Walmart, any of that, we're the people who are renting those out and making money off of it and just pay an operator to look over it. He actually they're on hold though until 2023 because he ain't revised the batteries. It takes 5 times as much as a regular car. And that brings me to my final point on just the Tesla conversation, which is that he is interested in creating a robot that will do daily tasks, cooking and cleaning, as well as going to get groceries for him. And he already says it's going to start as soon as next year. All right. Now, why I mention that? Because if you want to mention a mule doing work for you, let's actually mention us as Black Americans who are the labor force for 400 years, having access to a fleet of our own robots that do work for us on our behalf day and night out there in the sun. That would be poetic justice to me. We could receive those if the government pays for our 38 million to 40 million of us receiving our 40 acres in a Tesla bot. So keep that in mind. The Gigapress, the 18-wheeler, the Cybertruck. And this Cybertruck, by the way, they took pre-orders of $100 per person. 1 million people pre-ordered that Cybertruck. That is $100 million he's sitting on as a piggy bank right there. Just want to set that aside. Also, lastly, I just want to say that there are so many people from California who've given me good feedback on calling into their task force that they wish they had thought of it. And they're the ones who are shouting me out on Twitter and stuff. I wanted to shout them out because I think a lot of the pushback is from people who live in states that are not California, right? And in their states, they're thinking about cultivating land. And so they're thinking about giant farm machinery that can water the land all at once. That is, to me, what you can get with your reparations, but I wouldn't consider that a mule. And I can also mention Tesla solar panels. There's so much to mention for Tesla. I mean, we could come up with our own Freedmen edition Tesla car that a portion of the proceeds, if anyone else buys it, because it's free for us, goes into the Freedmen's Bureau, which we'll reestablish. And those payments can be divvied out in lifetime payments as a dividend, like natives who receive it from casinos. And if y'all want to say fuck Elon Musk, we can play that game too. We can look at how when he started with $100 million. He put 70 million into SpaceX, only 30 million into Tesla, 20 million and 10 million into Solar City. So there's a Black man who just received a reparations claim. I mean, not reparations, a settlement for an injustice that was being perpetuated on him at the Tesla factory. $137 million this Black man's about to get. So if we want to start our own Black-owned Tesla, Blesla, we need to be looking to this man to be at the forefront of that. He needs to hire these engineers, but I don't think that that's the move right now. We have an infrastructure through Elon that he wants to go to Mars in his lifetime. If he wants to do that and he wants a huge spike in his stock, he needs to address this original justice claim. That's all I got.
All right. Well, before you go, Mud, let me clear up something real quick. For those of you who listen to this live stream when we go live, every time we go live, y'all have never heard me say 40 acres in a Ford F-150. It was a conversation that the brothers and I were having, and we were doing a comparative analysis of then and now. And so that's why I tweeted out 40 acres and a Ford F-150, right? The Ford F-150 was akin, or would be, I should say, akin to a mule back in those days, used to haul and carry things from here to there. You know, they used the mule for various purposes, but hauling was one of the main purposes, particularly during during those times. So I just wanted to clarify that, right? That I'm not calling for 40 acres and a Ford F-150 at all. No one has ever heard me say that. It's just a tweet that I put out being funny, and it did catch a little bit of fire, and it was retweeted by a lot of people. I never elaborated on it, never really talked about it, but I want Mud to go in, and then we got Brother Ibrahim on, and we could finish this conversation. Go ahead, Brother Mud.
Can I drop one last before Mud goes?
Sure.
My bad. I just forgot about the because when we talk about 40 acres in a Tesla, I just talked about Tesla a whole lot, but I didn't touch the 40 acres. Just 3 quick points. I looked up for California specifically how much federal land is still owned by the government in California. It's 45%. That's literally 45 million acres. right? And if we're 2%, if we're 2 million in California, I was able to quantify if they're able to cover that 40 acres in a whatever justice claim in California, they can only cover 22.5 acres per Black American if we take all the federal land that they got there. Because if they gave us all 40 acres per person, which is how I'm trying to do the update, it ain't no per family no more. They can only afford 22 acres. But if 2 Black people get married in California, receiving 22.5 acres per person, that would be the 40 acres claim in California if 2 Black people get married. So California, it is possible with the federal land that's owned there for every Black American to receive 40 acres there. And,
all right, I got a request from the OG Otis. He says, can you share the link that shows that lawsuit at Tesla has been settled and the money transferred? You wouldn't be able to share it on YouTube, but you can put it in the private chat and I can share it in the chat so they can click on it.
Or if you wanted to pull it up, you just Google 137 million. I listened to his old interview on CNBC or whatever. He started tearing up saying that he was the second generation. He brought his son into the Tesla factory and his son started receiving racist comments and stuff. And he felt like it was time to say something, and it led towards 137 million. It's 6 million initially and 137 for punitive damages in total. So I wish that man would start his own electric car company, because Elon did it and look where he is now. For those who shout out Black car companies. Thank you for that question.
Brother
and Tesla's got trunks in the front and back, just so you know.
All right, so Cash, before we pass the mud, I just wanted to listening to what you said, I just want to go back over like implementation. How do we get to that? How do we get there, right? I'm all for big ideas, right? But I'm more on how do we achieve them, right? Because I really want them. When I want something, I don't want to be the man with the best idea. I want to be the individual who has the best plan to achieve it. You understand? And so that's where I put the focus, right? Because ultimately achieving it is the goal, right? We come from, so anyway, so when we talk about the trucks, whether they be trucks, whether they be any company from Tesla, do you think what would be better in your mind, right? Having them like supply us, or ownership in an American industry called the auto industry, where we can manufacture, distribute, and own our own automotive manufacturing companies and have Freedmen ownership in the auto industry. See, because it goes back to ownership, right? We need to be in control. It goes back to power. And if we needed help enforcing them to do that, because they can fight that, right? We need political power to apply the pressure. And so, like, ultimately, I don't want to trivialize over ideas. I want to come up with plans on achieving them. So how are we going to get from here to there? That's why I try to provide, enough refinement so that we can say, all right, boom. Can we see further than the fight that's right in front of us, right? Can we see the battle down the road and come up with the strategy to achieve the end result, right? That's how a general's got to work like that, right? And so what have you thought about the problems that are going to arise in the pursuit of that, and how do the people, right, address that? So you did a lot of talking about California. Is this a California specific? And is the state of California going to go out and use their state budget to fund it? And so have you thought about the magnitude of that measure? And is that constitutionally feasible for California to do something of that magnitude? So I just really want the mindset to be kind of focused like that for all of us that's in this fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mentioned the Gigapress and I mentioned the batteries. The Gigapress is a machine that he has a patent on that can print a car. He's gonna be able to print like 10,000 a day or something like that. So as far as production line, right now he only does 250,000 cars a year, and he's kind of behind on his production. So it is infeasible to try to have 2 million cars unless it takes 8 years, and he stops giving anyone who's paid for a car already now their car. He'd have to stop paid customers and just fulfill our claims. So that's impractical, right? So, and that's an 8-year time span. So that doesn't make any sense. But in Texas, he just opened a factory, as I was mentioning, in Austin, at least by 2023. And that factory is going to have the Gigapress. And again, that's able to print a car in 2 pieces. And then he's able to get his production up to 1 million. And I was just mentioning the batteries. That's his real hang up, as well as the microchips, but he's literally producing both of those himself in-house. They just produced a better form of a battery called the 4680 battery for more longevity. It's beating every other electric car out there and stuff. And then Logic, just because you mentioned black-owned car company, I got to shout out Treon, which is a supercar company that Master P and his son was looking at, Lil Romeo. But again, that's not green energy. So I hope that they can come out with an electric version of that. And I would 100% change my hashtag. I don't give a damn.
Okay, I'm glad that you showed me that you have a lot of knowledge about that particular industry. But can you speak to what my concern is, like, how do we achieve that policy wise?
Oh, I'm not sure how the task force writes its bills, but again, they have until 2023 and they have to suggest reparations proposals. In my mind, in the same way we were forced into a survey of either or in Evanston, where we had to choose between reparations being housing or education or healthcare, we're not doing that in California. It needs to be yes and. It needs to be, I can check a box for all that applies. I want my 800 credit score reset. I want my 40 acres. I want my Tesla car or its equivalent. You know what I'm saying? I want my, and it checks box all the way down. So that's how I imagine the California reparations to be. But I'm not sure if it's just going to be a box that you can check, if they need to have the California legislation speak to Elon direct. But as far as them affording it, $817 million they generated in 2020 from marijuana taxes alone. So
you basically talking about reparations for Californians.
Yes, in the California.
Okay, all right. So maybe that may be where the disconnect is, because that's a total difference. That's not the discussion I'm having. So you could be 100% right and exact. I'm not really discussing or critiquing at this moment the concept of state reparations. So okay, we can move on if Mud or Ibrahim has something to say.
Yeah, let's let Mud jump in and then Brother Ibrahim.
Yeah, I mean, the whole context of this was Cash calling into the California reparations. But I really don't understand the point of this dispute. I think it's very obvious what Cash was trying to do. He was trying to come up with a slogan that would get people interested in having the discussion about all of this. The whole point was to be provocative. That's why he named Tesla, because saying 40 acres in an electric car, it doesn't really have the same ring to it. And obviously, well, not obviously, but Cash has been in many discussions with other reparationists about how we get the youth involved. And that's why you hear him talking about green energy, you hear him talking about Tesla and electric cars, because that is the future. We all understand that at some point, vehicles that run on gasoline are going to be obsolete. So what he's saying is basically, let's take the 40 acres and a mule, which everyone has a basic understanding of that as the basic conversation with reparations. They don't know the deep cuts that we all know. They don't know the information that we all have, but we need to get a lot of people involved in this discussion that aren't in the discussion right now. So using 40 acres in a Tesla, it's a hook that brings people in because everyone knows 40 acres, but it's an update of the mule. It's very simple. It's not complex. And I mean, we don't live in an agrarian society no more. So, most of us aren't farmers. Most of us aren't going to get our reparations to decide to become farmers. So you're going to hear a lot of discussions about 40 acres a mule where people say, I don't want the fucking mule. I'm sorry for using the curse word, but they're going to say, I don't want the mule. So obviously what Cash was doing is providing a substitute.
You can speak freely, brothers. No hold back. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really don't understand what is the big issue. And I get like people have like taken quotes from him and try to twist it, like conservatives and whatnot, try to twist it to make a mockery of it. But they're going to do that with any conversation about reparations. And this is kind of to go back to.
Wait, hold on. When you say conservatives, do you mean the Epic Times? Or just, okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm talking about, because I believe that's the Epoch Times is a conservative publication. And they were going to twist anything. They were looking for anything to find that was going to be interesting to try to make a mockery out of the discussion. But from Cash's perspective, what he's trying to do is he's trying to hook more, Black Americans who descend from American chattel slavery into this conversation. And, saying 40 acres in a Tesla, look, I'm almost 40 years old, and a lot of people in the movement, are in their 40s, late 30s, almost 50s. We don't know how to communicate to the kids. Cash is like closer to the age of people in their 20s, and he's in his early 30s. So he's speaking their language. He's trying to communicate to them. And that's, I see nothing wrong with it.
Indeed, indeed.
So do you see anything wrong with giving the brother a platform to discuss his ideas to the people?
Who? Cash?
Yeah.
Cash? No.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
That's what I'm asking, because like you said, you didn't see the purpose of we first of all, we didn't describe it as a debate. We're just having a discussion in front of the people. So that's why I was confused on.
No, it's just that you're not the first people that have had a conversation or wanted to have this conversation. And most of the people that wanted to have this conversation were looking at it from a negative point of view, saying that Cash did something wrong. When from my perspective, he's just trying to add to the conversation and get more people involved. And I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. And we our intent here was to have the discussion. We're not passing or trying to bestow any wrongdoing on anyone. We, like we said a few times already, right? We just want power and refinement. And like chess players say, we don't want to just make a good move. We want our next move to be our best move. And so when we have this discussion, we bring more minds in. We have people in the chat. We have several people in the chat chiming in, and we all do this thing together because this is all of our business. So I don't look at it when I come out and make statements like nobody better not challenge logic, right? Because it's not my business. I don't own it. It's like, this is our business. This is family business. You ain't never had a conversation with your cousin and had a disagreement. Like, that's what we do. That don't mean we not family. That don't mean that I don't fuck with Cash or none of that. That's like, I like Michael Jordan. He like LeBron James. We gonna fucking talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And we gonna have a discussion, but that don't mean we enemies. We're not enemies in this space. And so with like, in this disconnect between whatever an old head is, because I'm 38. I did not know that 38 was an old head. Right. And so just because like
We're the old guys now.
you know what I'm saying? So I just don't know, like right. The old heads when I was older they was real OGs. I didn't call people 38 old heads, right? But anyhow, right. What I'm saying is like, so that there is no disconnect, we want to bring a young brother like Cash on. You know what I'm saying? So he can represent his group, right? That's what we're supposed to do. Given an opportunity to stand on his square and talk about it, and then we can assess the man's opinion and we gave him his respect, gave him his time, and we gonna listen to it. But in this space, it comes with the territory. No matter how well put together or how shitty you put your position together, in government, it's about power. So it's going to be questioned. It's going to be scrutinized. It's going to be critiqued. So you got to be prepared for that, period. Right? This is just reoccurring training. We want to make sure, okay, even if Cash decides to go out and continue to do what he's doing, he can come away from this discussion and say, you know what? Ooh, I'm gonna do this like this. All right, boom, I'm gonna be ready for this next thing coming up. You know what I'm saying? Because everything should just make you better, even if it's a disagreement. So that's all this is, family discussion. We don't gotta agree on everything, but we should be able to talk about anything. You feel me?
Brother Ibrahim.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that whole Tesla breakdown was a state reparationist claim that the young brother was trying to make. Is that right?
That's what he basically just said. And I don't want to speak for him, but I believe that's what I heard. My ears is old.
Okay.
We the old head, so my ears is old. So I don't know if I heard him correctly, but I believe that's what he said.
And, okay, so I have a bunch of issues, but if it's a state reparationist claim, I'll try to stay away from that because as a movement, we built the state reparationist claim just to say it's not enough, right? And we put the data behind it to just, this is a big claim that you're making. And then when you use the states to try to build some type of state reparationist claim, and you start with the states that have a extremely small percentage of blacks that live there, I also find that to be very problematic. And even if I was in California, I just don't know if I would want, well, I'm absolutely sure nobody wants their reparations to be tied to some heir of a diamond mine, right? Like nobody wants to, because if you bring in Tesla or any other white entrepreneur, businessman, you're anchoring into a claim that's not needed for them to be anchored into, eventually giving them reparations, and it would make Elon Musk and Tesla, the wealthiest, most powerful man in the world, which he's already on his way to being. No reason to put him on top of reparations. Oh man, like it was all over the place. I think it's good that we got people talking about reparations, and it's good that we got the young brother wanting to include younger people in reparations. But right now, just my humble opinion, and BTP is not the most, it's a very challenging platform to come on, because you'll get your issue, but I would like to
And I'm
see.
being easy, brother
Yeah,
Ibrahim. I just
yeah.
want to let
And
it
I'm
be known
not
I'm being
trying
easy
to
tonight. I'm
go
being
in
easy
because
tonight.
when I thought it was national, like my blood was boiling when I thought like that was the national. I was ready to just come on here and but now I kind of like see, what the situation is. I would like to see like more academic studying behind, both of these brothers' claims. I would like to, because like the one brother said, like the young brother doesn't want, like he's just trying to speak on a language that would be more inclusive to young people. And our thing is, if you can't build this right, it fails. So we're not too much concerned about the numbers. I mean, we do want a tipping point. So, we want, more people, but we want the right people, not just people. And you definitely don't want somebody that's equivalent of, say, a young Pharaoh just running around galvanizing people around reparations that can be easily debunked and dismissed by the neo-Confederates. So I would just like to see, a little bit more studying, and for them just to anchor in with some better economists and be able to, stand on their positions a little bit better. Because if you're making a state-by-state claim, especially states that you don't live in and states that black people wasn't allowed to live in until like the last 50, 60 years and still are not heavily populated in, you can make a claim for reparations that actually go against reparations. And I don't think these brothers are intentionally doing that. But when you bring certain people into a reparations claim or certain type of ideologies into a reparations claim, it can be subversive, and it'll basically be like the Trojan horse. And that's what we've seen with other movements that try to, do reparations that way. So, I appreciate these brothers coming on the platform, and I appreciate them talking about reparations. And
Yeah.
that's basically it. I would just like to send, Logic broke it down, great. And I would just like them to review this video and see like some of the holes in a reparation advocacy. And that's all.
All right, let me bring this comment up by Daniel Churcher, another clubhouser. She says, "What I find interesting is the only people who disagree with 40 acres in a Tesla are those who deep down wish they came up with it themselves." See, I'm trying to be chill tonight. I'm trying to let the conversation flow. I'm letting people go in the chat. I'll address things here and there. I stop pulling up certain stuff because Mud was right, right? Mud was right about that. But certain things I am going to pull up because this is the Be the Power platform, and you pull up
Let
when
me
you
speak
pull up.
to that real quick.
Go ahead, brother.
The reason I personally disagree, and I feel many of y'all disagree with 40 acres in the Tesla. I mean, he spoke of like a company like Master P and his son was supposed to be invested in, and some black automakers. And we know what our contribution to this country has always been. The issue is legacy, and the issue is whiteness in America, right? Where somebody like Elon Musk, I believe he's from South Africa, and his dad owned a diamond mine, can come here and just be white and bring all those resources and merge it with white privilege, right? And that gives him the boost he needs to end up creating a Tesla. Another thing is Elon Musk is not a genius. You know, he's a thief. He's the Bill Gates of the technology industry, and he's a white man. He's a privileged white man. So never would I link in a white-owned business to something that's such as serious as a reparations claim. It's an immature idea. I could like if you was just throwing it out there as something that's controversy to get more people into reparations, I would see. But he actually backed it up with some actual makes and models that Tesla make. Even as we see, the auto-driving Tesla kill people left and right. It's a very faulty car. The semi-truck they tried to put out is not needed. It went from 0 to 80 in like 6 seconds. Who needs a semi that's 80,000 pounds going 0 to 60, right? The idea is to get the merchandise there safe, right? Not fast. So you know, like it's cool and it's hip, but it's child's play. And that truck isn't on the road, and there's a reason for why that truck isn't on the road, and there's a reason why self-driving semis isn't on the road, because America doesn't have the infrastructure. But that's another conversation. I just think more research should have came, you know, and when you make these claims, it takes such a serious conversation and it makes it childish. And like, that's my issue with, you know, 40 acres in the Tesla, and I'll leave it there.
All right. So I just want to, and I'm a, you know, we could pass it back on, but I want to pull this up, right? Because, you know, some people appear to be confused, right? Our research, I mean, we got our research is right here on our website. All the brothers are putting together something else right now that we're going to be putting out into the public shortly. Writings, right? Because we're uncovering tons and tons and tons of Freedmen information. We are laying the groundwork for what we believe will be one of the most powerful political movements by our people in this nation's history. And it takes steps, brick by brick, step by step, whatever analogy or cliche you want to use. So she says the only people who disagree with 40 acres and a Tesla are those who, so basically she's accusing us of being jealous of not coming up with this 40 acres and a Tesla claim. I don't know if she was listening, and maybe it's me, maybe because I'm an old head. I don't know. But I said earlier that a few months before this brother said this, I facetiously put out a tweet that said 40 acres and a Ford F-150. Now, if you were to get a room of 100 people, and we put a scenario to the people, right? What do you think would be akin to 40 acres and a mule today? 40 acres in the Tesla luxury car, because the Tesla robot and the Tesla truck and the press, or all of that stuff came after the initial words were spoken, right? The initial statement. Or 40 acres in a Ford F-150. Because when you think of what the purpose of the mule was back in that day, to be able to carry large loads on its back, balanced out on each side of it, etc. People, I think, I don't know, you know, us old heads, our marbles is a little scrambled, I guess, are going to say that what closely resembles the mule that hauls and carries is the Ford F-150. This idea that it's jealousy goes to what Brother Ibrahim was saying about the childishness of it. And what we do at Be the Power is we have adult conversations. So I don't know what some of these people are on, but you know, some of this stuff I'm going to address. People could champion and cheerlead who they want. That doesn't mean anything to me, because that don't get nothing done at the end of the day. What gets stuff done is what gets stuff done. Point blank, period.
A lot of it is like what's going on, and we have to deal with this as well, right? And so a lot of things, we've seen examples from the past. We really have to create some uniformity with the people that we roll with and that we work with, right? And so even in this, like, there's like, this is a bad part of any kind of movement dynamics, right? Y'all are leaders, whether y'all have accepted that or proclaimed that or not. Y'all are leaders. Y'all got people who follow y'all information, follow y'all ideas. You're a leader in this space, right? And so you got to be able to identify counterproductive behavior. And so after we have already tried to say, you know, we respectfully having this discussion, you see the agitators. We can't even call the brother Cash a young brother. They done found something wrong with that.
That's right.
But we can't even say young. Now they done turned young brother negative. That's crazy.
Right. That's right. They
like they act like we called him out his name. You know what I'm saying? And so now like they're saying that we just have a problem because we're doing this and doing that, but we can't even call the brother a young brother. How is that a negative or derogatory statement? Cash, are you offended by being called young brother Cash? If that does that offend you?
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
Okay, I just didn't want to make sure we wasn't offending you, right? Because that wasn't the intent. And so like we're going to have, like he said, the hard discussions, the adult discussions, and we're gonna disagree. We're gonna talk about why we disagree openly and honestly, and we're gonna move around. You know what I'm saying? So all of the you know, the weird energy, we got to kind of make sure we dissipate that, because that kills cohesion, that kills unit cohesion. Our goal is to work with all the Freedmen family. But if this type of venom comes just from questioning an idea, we'll never get nowhere. You understand? So we got to do better than that. We just got to do better and create more unit cohesion amongst the Freedmen, right? Amongst all reparationists in general. And so with that being said, right, even though we have critiqued the ideas, hopefully that there's some headway that could be made and that we all can get better working together, right? So there should be no reason we don't speak again after this discussion, right? We're not, like I said before, we're not enemies. And if we are all genuinely interested in accomplishing the goal of pure reparations and the restoration of everything that's owed to the Freedmen, right, and getting some actual ownership that we deserve from the equity that we put into this country, we should all be serious about working with as many organizations as it takes, as many people as it takes, whether we disagree on certain points. We all agree on who is owed, right? Look at all the shit we agree on, right? We all agree on who is owed, right? We all agree on why we owed that shit. You understand? And so because we want to talk about what could be the potential problematic, you know, things that come from different Freedmen organizations and reparationist advocates, that should not be a discussion that inspires hostility among the Freedmen community. You should say, okay, well, damn, they don't agree with that. Let's look at that. Boom, and we revisit these conversations as we progress throughout our work. That's what we got to do. If you ain't built for that type of work, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's how it is. It ain't gonna stop. It ain't gonna stop. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you just gotta do it.
For the people saying it's the hashtag, that before it was a hashtag, the Cash sent me the article. At first, I think I was at work. I can't even remember. I just looked at it and I clicked like on it, and then I really seen it. I'm like, wait, what is this? This was a clip from a screenshot from a newspaper article that he sent to me directly. And I'm like, wait. And then I seen it on brother Rashad Singleton's thread. And that's when I questioned Cash directly. And Cash is right here. And he can tell you if I'm lying or not. So some of y'all people, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. That was the problem. Speaking of hashtags, that was the problem with the last hashtag movement. People are looking for personalities to worship. And we just don't do that over here. And we don't ask anybody to worship our personalities. We just put the information out, and we're going to challenge things that we feel are problematic. It's just as simple as that. So Brother Cash and Brother Mud, if y'all have anything that y'all want to, you know, close out with before we close it out, or, you know, if Logic, if you want to extend the discussion for a couple more minutes, we can. But let's hear from Cash and Mud.
You know, first, I appreciate all the feedback. I'm doing this for us. These ideas are for us. Again, it was to bring land into the conversation. I was being facetious, but when I look up who the richest people are on the planet, a lot of them got Tesla assets and stuff. So, and then I mentioned the discrimination lawsuit, 137 million. If we're going to start it over with a black man and he's going to build the infrastructure and we're going to have him able to build these cars for us, I'm 110% with that too. Ownership is a great point. I can't stress that enough. So I'm here for the feedback from the big brothers. You know what I'm saying? And I hopefully was able to absorb some stuff. I'm gonna go back and watch this as Ibrahim suggested, and make sure I line myself up nice. And hopefully y'all understand that I called into the California Reparations Task Force, and I suggested so much stuff, and this is what they heard. It created a headline, and now at least people talking about reparations in California. You know what I mean? And that's a part of why you create hashtags, why you kind of had those small movements. But I never meant for it to be about me or anything. I'm looking for one to tie us to Bezos, one for Georgia that might make sense because HB 541's coming up. Maybe we could work together on that because we need people to be talking about this. I ain't trying to talk about Kyrie not getting a vaccine or Kevin Samuels, whoever that is, or anything other than the check that we're owed, what that's going to look like, our land, our autonomy, us living for ourselves and being in control of our own lives. That's what I thought our citizenship was, and we ain't achieved that yet. And I'm so stuck on the direct cash payments and land. So that's my focus. But I definitely hear y'all, and I definitely understand there's much more than that. Like people with 12-point agendas, there's much more to our liberation than just the direct cash payments and the 40 acres in a Tesla or what have you. So thank y'all again for having me. And for chopping it up. Hopefully I didn't go too far in the conversation, and I didn't mean to be too literal. Sometimes it's a flow state. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I say something, people start taking it literally, and they actually do want a Tesla. People tell me what color they want. People telling me what make and model and stuff. But I do hear the feedback that there's racist at Tesla Motors. I can mention Veronica Wu. Right. Shout out to Jackie Winter, who brought that to me in one of the conversations about 40 acres in Tesla. Veronica Wu is the Asia correspondent in China. She had to step down as the CEO for, I think, manufacturing because she was releasing tweets saying that Black Lives Matters is the real racist. So do I want to just put more money into a corporation that's discriminated against Black men to the tune of 137 million? These are conversations that we need to have so I can sober myself and not be quote unquote giving money back to the white man. But again, this all came from trying to tie it to a famous person, making Dogecoin popular, making things pop. And I'm like, well, if our reparations is a serious conversation, I'm trying to tie it to everything hot until we get to the bag. And one last thing is I even found Yvette Carnell, not from looking at reparations. I wasn't Googling that term. And she didn't have it probably as her hashtags. I found her because she was reviewing the Black Panther movie. And because it was her and Tone sitting there, and I started looking up his stuff as well. And I started realizing, why am I being entertained when our people haven't received our just due? So again, thank y'all for this space and for keeping the fight alive for the 12-point program and more, for reparations even being a conversation and for having us on.
No doubt, no doubt. Thanks for having the courage to come up here and have the discussion and represent your ideas and thoughts. And, just again, to reiterate, as you go back and continue your work and what you do, I would just, again, kind of echo some of the concerns we have as you think about it moving forward. Like Ibrahim's saying, anchoring into white families, to me, is problematic. And then the whole concept of like these automobiles or products won't be produced for free. So who's going to be benefiting off of the production of said automobiles and whatnot, right? And so, like Ibrahim saying, I don't think that our repair should contribute to the super magnification of already uber rich white folks. And so I think that's another problematic issue. And like ultimately, like this is not an argument over a hashtag. This is just a conversation over ideas and concepts, and ultimately the plan and the pathway on how to achieve these things. So I just wanted to reiterate that and echo that. And link up with myself. We got open door policies, and we do all kind of work. We could talk about work that we do. Some people suggest that we haven't impacted youth, and we haven't impacted, but we got all kind of programs, youth programs, all kind of bodies of work. I've been doing work for years with youth programs, Stop the Violence, Anti-Gang. We done gave turkeys, Jordans, backpacks, you name it. I done done that shit. You know what I'm saying? So we all invested, and I see good intentions from you people. I just want power and refinement. So any way we can contribute to that process, we will try to do that. And so link up with us. And that's been the consistent echo. We keep telling folks, link up. We want to do things right, especially when you think about moving cross state lines. It's real. It's wise to work with the people who are local in that area, who know the landscape, know the political climate, can help you execute plans and programs and projects, as you move, throughout the state. So like I personally, if I'm coming to California, already know who in mind who I need to get in contact with, right? And so, and shout out to them, right? Because we respect what they work, and we communicate, and we build with them, right? And that's what we want to see happen throughout this movement all across the country. More working together, more cohesion, more coalition building, and all hopefully it's gonna all come together very soon. And that's all I got, man.
Indeed. Mud, you got something you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just run back through the conversation again and go ahead and get my sign off. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just think it's nitpicking. I think the 40 acres and a Tesla is just a slogan. I think that when we think electric car, Tesla is synonymous with that. It's just something that makes basic sense, and it's not an actual policy proposal. It's just a slogan and a hashtag, and I think people are taking it way too serious. Also, the 6.2 quadrillion, that is based on scholarly work. It's based on Thomas Kramer's work. It's the same source where we get the 17 to 20 trillion figure. That comes from Thomas Kramer. At the 3% interest rate, you get the 17. I think the updated number is the 18.6, but people just round up to 20 trillion. And then on the other end of that, his high number is at the 6% interest rate is 6.2 quadrillion. So I don't know.
He has a baseline of 20 million, you're saying?
No, the low number at 3% at a 3% interest rate is $18.6 trillion. At a 6% interest rate, it's 6.2 quadrillion. Those figures come from the same source. So
that interest rate is crazy.
Yeah, so like Thomas Kramer said, this is a debate between us and the American government based on that interest rate. What is that interest rate going to be? What is it going to be between that 3 and 6%? And that's what we're talking about. So I'll just leave it there. Thank you for having me on.
Indeed. Let me just say real quick. This is not about nitpicking. I'm serious about this political fight. I've been serious about getting into politics for years. Be the Power started as a hashtag in 2014. And the sole purpose was be the power. You hear the motto, don't just fight the power, become the power, then you will have the power to make a change. When you're reading the works of scholars and you're serious about, let me hold up the works of scholars, right? No sacred cows, just scholarship. I respect scholarship. And I look at how this government functions, how this government operates, et cetera, the political power that's needed for us to advance any of our ideas. It's my job to critique, just like we critique Candace Owens. And I'm not putting y'all in the same boat. I'm just saying we critique people that we have disagreements with. It's just as simple as that. It's not a nitpick. I don't think that it is a good ask at all. It's just me. Y'all might not feel that way. I don't think it's a serious ask. When you see something get picked up by a far right-wing newspaper, Mud spoke on this earlier, conservatives picked it up, they're doing it to make fun of it, to point at it and say, ha, ha, ha. So while Kramer's number may be an aggregate of the reparations, what a total reparations program would cost. And I kind of wanted to get into that tonight, but the conversation just kept flowing. That's not how you, in my opinion, in our opinion, that's not how you approach the conversation. That's not how you approach the conversation. You approach the conversation by starting off, and only thing I'm doing is going by the scholarship, starting off with the direct cash payments based on the several factors that Darity, Kramer, et cetera, have already come up with, right? Then we start getting into the programs, multi-generational programs. So if you want to say free college, tax-free, no sales tax, no property tax, it's a plethora of things that we could possibly run down. Free college, free, what's the one for the babies? Child care.
You talking about the baby bonds?
No, not the baby bonds. The school, the daycare. I can't think of the word right now, and it's escaping me. Right, so we could run down all of these different things that would be included in the program. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, when they passed the last COVID Act, got $31 billion out of that act. So when we're talking about reestablishing the Freedmen's Bureau, for instance, we're talking about that every time Congress passes, a budget, our monies get allocated into that budget for our specific programs as well. We believe this is the way you approach the conversation. This is the way you approach the conversation. My brother Ali said debt forgiveness, or some of these things that were already brought up, resetting credit scores. Definitely. When the conversation starts moving a certain kind of way, and you're sitting here every day, like, and you're planning and you're thinking, how can we make this possible? Okay, we have a clear pathway now. We understand that we need radical federalism. Without taking control over one state, none of this, it really becomes a reality, in our opinion, based on our research. This is why we did the book club, The Devil You Know, and why we did the book club, The Bloody Shirt, to show how they took state power from us, fear of Negro rule and Negro domination, which pushed us out to the northern states, decimated our political population. So when you're doing this every single day, as we do, planning, typing, writing, coming up with research, doing everything, and you start to see things that don't jive with the scholarship, it's our duty to question it and critique it. I don't care who don't like it. And the fact that y'all brothers came on to have the conversation, I respect that. First and foremost, because like Brother Ibrahim says, it can be challenging to come up here and have this conversation. Now, I love the debate. I love to debate. I love it. I think I've mastered the art of debate. At least I think I've heard some things tonight that I could have really, really challenged, but I didn't. I just let the conversation flow. So, I just wanted to close with that it ain't nitpicking, because we don't nitpick. It's not what we do. Children and grown folks with childlike minds nitpick. People in the chat nitpicking. calling us all out our names and stuff. Had to block a few people. They nitpicking. I mean, it is what Dawn nitpicking. Dawn in the chat nitpicking, right? It is what it is. Some of these people we got love for. Some of them, I don't know them. They could kick rocks. Point blank, period. So I just wanted to clear the air up on our side that, it's not that at all. If we are to be successful, let me go back. I'm going to end with this. I say this all the time on Be the Power. The Hegelian dialectic. I'll try to drive this point home when we have debates and two-sided discussions, because it's the only way you're really going to get things done. Dr. King, I've been knew about this term, but when I finally read Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, Dr. King said it in his writings. If we would but use the old Hegelian dialectic, and I'll paraphrase, we'll figure out so much stuff. So that dialectic is thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. This is a part of why we have the conversation or have the debate in the first place. So that if you have a side, you can present it. If I have a side, you can present it. If I find something problematic within what you said, I get to challenge that. And then you got to back it up. And if you back it up, then you satisfy my challenge. I can no longer challenge that. Why? Wise men don't agree to disagree. Wise men agree to agree, and vice versa. If I find something, or if you find something in challenging in my thesis, then it's on me to now back it up. I got to provide the sources. I got to provide. I'm not and can't just come with a bunch of opinion. I got to back it up now. And that's kind of why I held my tongue on a lot of things tonight, because we would be pushing 4 hours into this conversation. But I reckon we'll have this debate again. I'll pop in y'all's clubhouse one day and we could finish these conversations. We could definitely finish these conversations. So, Brother Logic, did you have anything you want to say in closing, brother?
Yeah. So once again, thanks for coming out. You did say something, Abba, that I wanted to touch on. It done slipped me, but Brother Cash, thanks for coming out, bro. Link up with us. Let's work, right? Everybody that's sincere in this thing, let's work together and get it done, because we can go in deep on a lot of the things. Like, if you like, I listened to some of the things you said, and like we can really get on offline and talk about this. But I really would like to go in with you about these interest rates you talk about. I suggest you go. I would recommend, right? Go back and watch the interview we did with Warren Mosler. It's going to answer a lot of those questions too. Warren Mosler invented, like, he's the father of MMT, right? So watch that interview we did with Warren. He, is very very just a gift of knowledge in that regard on how this monetary system should work. And let's build on that, because the interest rates, funding, fiat, all of that, we can help get that situation refined. And again, I would want to focus on, in the reparations work, whether you're doing it in Cali, whether you're doing it anywhere you're doing it, right? Please stay submerged in that Freedmen subject matter. Don't do it for me, do it for yourself. That's going to give you all of the ammunition and all of the foundation you need to be successful in anything. Submerge yourself. You go into the archives, like I said, it's over 3.5 million Freedmen records just on the archives. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many examples on what to do, how to do it, what kind of commissions need to be set up, what kind of programs. It's all the evidence to any claim you're gonna make. That's gonna really be some dope shit to present to whoever you may be talking to at the time. When you bring that out, I'm telling you, that's gonna be your best friend, staying submerged in that history, man. And so you'll be like doing what our ancestors did. We'll be able to do like they did. They said after the Civil War, in 1 year's time, they had made over 100 years of progress, right? We get back into the secret Freedman sauce, we can produce that same kind of effect. All the greatest civil rights justice movements were led by our people, from abolition to Reconstruction to civil rights, into doing civil rights over again, striking down all this shit for everybody. Like, we're the best at it. Our family wrote the blueprint. That Freedman history is that blueprint. So that blueprint. So my recommendation is to really submerge yourself in that Freedman history, and you'll figure the rest out on your own, man. And stay linking up. The more solidarity we have within Freedmen, the more success we'll have, right? So let's not be satisfied with having like just our team. Let's make a league, right? A league of reparationists, a league of freedmen, right? And y'all can have a dope team over there doing y'all shit, right? We can have a good rivalry of who can make the most reparations. That's good shit. I don't mind doing like that with who can craft the best bill for economic security, and who can do. Why wouldn't? That's good competition. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as we're not trying to destroy each other in this movement, helping each other out. That's how you improve. That's how you get better. Who can make the most progress should be something that we push each other to do, right? And so good luck out there. Hit me up. I just accepted you, or I just followed you on the Instagram. You tagged me, and like let's build. And so even if we can't see eye to eye on this project, what project can we work on, and what other projects can we help each other improve? That's like how we move on from here, right? So boom, we don't have to stay stuck on what we disagree. If we talk long enough, I guarantee you we're gonna start agreeing on shit. And let's work on those things, right? And so that's my message. I love all my Freedmen family, and government is the game and politics is how it's played, man. I'm out, man.
Indeed. Brother Ibrahim, you want to say something real quick before we get off air?
Yeah, I don't know if y'all can hear me, but I just appreciate the brothers for coming out. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate y'all. Hopefully we can take this conversation offline. And I would just like to point to, it's not nitpicking in both like bait and hooks that y'all tried to use. You just didn't get the result that you want to get.
You breaking up, bro. Yo, yeah, Ibrahim. Can you hear me?
That's it.
All right,
I can hear you, but that's it.
All right, definitely. All right, so we're gonna thank Brother Cash and Brother Mud. I mean, y'all want to say one more word before we close out? You good, Cash? You good, Mud? You want to say something?
Check us out on Reset Race. It's Actified Press on YouTube.
Indeed. All right, so y'all already know what it is. Oh, go ahead, Cash.
And I have a YouTube channel with some rants. I edit anime in with it. I just started. It's called The Hero Hunter, the Black Garu, just so I could take down Andrew Jackson and a lot of these other figures that we so-called uphold as heroes. About to reveal the problems that we've had with all of them. So that's a YouTube channel, and that's some of the comments I got down below. And I just want to say peace and reparations, and thank y'all for the chop up.
Indeed.
Mud, you Reset Race, man. I ain't noticed this whole time, man. Go. Man, you used to build with me all the time, man. Get back with me, man.
All right. We could do it.
Let me see. Hold on. I'm trying to capture Dawn comment. It's not coming up on YouTube. I just want to have it. That's all. So it is what it is. It is what it is. So look, family, we had another discussion tonight, and we needed to have this discussion. Usually we bring people on that we have really, really adverse positions with to show everybody else that, these people's arguments are crazy, and not to just show them that, but to also show them that we used to deal with the same type of stuff. So it's okay to elevate. It's okay to elevate. Tonight, it was a reparations discussion, and it was a much needed one, right? They had Continental Congress, and before you even really get the formation of this country, debates. And then when you get the formation of the current government, there are congressional debates that went on. There was congressional debates about what to do with the slaves before they were even freed. And so we got some of that stuff on deck as well. So, there was always debates, and we going to debate. We going to debate. Some people not going to like some things. Some people not going to like how some things is said. And, that it is what it is. I expect that, and I respect that. I expect it and respect it. But nevertheless, we are having the conversation, and it's needed. And like I said, whenever I jump back on Clubhouse and y'all having the conversation, I'll pull up. I don't mind coming up on the stage to get shouted down by everybody that's on the stage. I done got used to it on Clubhouse. It is what it is. So, yeah, man. Shout out to my brother Josh. He couldn't make it on tonight. Brother Ali. They was just chilling tonight. Brother Josh just couldn't make it on tonight. But shout out to Brother Ibrahim for coming through as well. I'm going to take y'all up out of here with the Be the Power motto, which is don't just fight the power, become the power. And then and only then will you have the power to make a change. With that, I say peace. Oh, I was supposed to have my have my little outro cue.